Hi, I'm Justin from JGalt Aircraft. In this video, we're going to discuss some things about aircraft design books that you may want to know. So say that you have decided you would like to design your own aircraft, and you've looked on Amazon and you found that there's a large variety of aircraft design books available, and you are ready to get started. Before you do, there's a couple things that you might find useful. The first of those is that the typical aircraft design book really only covers one phase or two phases of aircraft design. And there's multiple phases, and each book varies a little bit on how they break down the different phases. But essentially, most of the aircraft design books available cover what's known as the conceptual design phase. And in the conceptual design phase, you do things like determine your range requirements, your speed requirements, how many people that you would like to carry, your stall speed that you'd like to have for your plane, your configuration if you want a high wing or low wing or a T-tail or those kind of things. So that's well and good, but most of the design books don't go a lot past that point. And so when you're done going through one of these books, what you have is a good starting point to actually start designing the structure. You're not going to be ready to start going and building and cutting metal or laying up fiberglass, as the case may be. What you really end up with is a three-view sketch of your proposed design and kind of a spec sheet of all the different things that your aircraft is going to have, at least tentatively. For example, your wing area will be in there, your tail area, those kind of things, whether you have flaps, stuff like that. And in some cases, you might have determined the airfoil you're going to use and some other specifics. But you really won't be, by the time you're done with these books, you're really not going to be ready to just get right to it. There's still a lot of other aspects to aircraft design, including actually designing the structure, how it's going to be built and how it's going to all hold together. So that's one thing to know, is just be prepared for that. Just don't think you're going to finish this book in one of these books and then just get right to it. That's not how it works. That's okay. Don't let that discourage you. Just know that ahead of time. Okay, so the second thing to know about the aircraft design books, and this applies to virtually all of them that I've read, and that's that they have mistakes in the equations that are printed in the books. And it's not that the author doesn't always talk about it, it's just sometimes there gets to be a typo in there or whatnot. So you may be working your way through a design book, and you may find that something doesn't make sense with something else you've been working through, some other equation, a variable doesn't quite make sense, or you don't quite know what it's trying to tell you. And really the takeaway is that it's not always going to be you. There's a possibility that the book is incorrect, and you might lose some time trying to figure that out. And there's really no way I can tell you all the instances where that's happened, but I can tell you I've lost hours and hours going through back and forth through equations trying to figure out what was going wrong, and it turns out that it was an error in the equation. So just keep that in mind. Again, don't get discouraged. Just bear in mind that if you're stuck, it may be because there's an error in the book. So just try to consult another book if you can. Try to cross-reference to another book, and that should help you get to it, which is what I ended up doing. Okay, so the next thing to think about is that some of the design books, typically the books geared towards the entry-level designer, like the lay person designer, they will tend to use modified forms of the design equations. For example, they'll modify equations so that you can enter aircraft speed in miles per hour or knots, instead of a standard unit of measure. And in the aircraft design world, there's standard units of measurement. And for example, for speed, that unit is feet per second. And so if you get some of the earlier, like the early entry level, kind of the smaller, thinner books on aircraft design, you may find that they use a modified equation, and you enter the speed in miles per hour. But if you really start getting serious about aircraft design, you'll find that kind of holds you back in a way, and you really just want to learn to work in the standard units of measurement, which for speed is feet per second. And there's a variety of other ones. I won't go through them all here, but just keep that in mind. The entry-level books are good, but then think about also stepping up to something big like this one here. This is Dr. Gudmundson's General Aviation Aircraft Design book. So you're probably wondering then, is there any books that go into a little further deeper into design, like for example talking about the strength of the spar and some of the loading and structural design and stuff like that. One good one that I can recommend is this Chris Heinz book, and he's designed a lot of aircraft in his day. But that book it's small, but it's packed with a lot of useful information, and it's geared towards general aviation light aircraft. And he goes into a lot of things really, but he talks about loading and the stress on the spar and stuff like that. So that's one that I'd recommend picking up, and he's got some interesting insights in there, just his philosophy on life and some little tidbits like that and stuff. So I would recommend that book just for just anybody who's interested in aircraft design, just on its merits there. So that's about it. Thank you very much.